I never imagined that returning a lost watch would lead to an unbelievable twist. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. It started as a typical Tuesday, but the moment I spotted the glint of silver on the sidewalk, something shifted. The watch lay there, forgotten but still beautiful. I picked it up, feeling its cool metal against my palm. It felt important, heavy with stories I had yet to uncover. As I examined the details, the intricate gears inside seemed to whisper secrets. Was it valuable? What kind of person lost something so precious? I decided to find the owner. Surely, someone out there was missing this piece of their life. The search was like diving into an ocean of whispers and shadows. I asked around, showing the watch to strangers. Some stared at me, puzzled. Others merely shrugged. But as the sun dipped lower, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, I felt the weight of the watch growing heavier. It wasn't just a timepiece, it felt like a connection, a portal to someone's past. Then, I met her. An older woman with piercing blue eyes that seemed to hold the universe within them. She approached me, her hands trembling. "You found it," she breathed, her voice catching in her throat. I didn't recognize her, yet something about her felt familiar. I handed over the watch, our fingers brushing for just a moment. It sent a shiver down my spine. In that instant, the world around us faded. I could feel my heartbeat thundering in my ears. She took the watch, cradling it like a fragile bird. Tears welled in her eyes as she murmured a thank you, but then she hesitated. The silence grew thick, the air electric with unspoken words. "What is it?" I asked softly, sensing a storm brewing. She hesitated, her gaze shifting to the ground. "This watch, it belonged to my son." Her voice cracked. "He died last year." My heart sank. I could only imagine her pain, but it was the way she spoke next that sent chills down my spine. "He didn't just die, he was taken. And now, this watch is all I have left." Time froze. Her words hung between us like a dark cloud. I opened my mouth to speak, but no sound came out. My mind raced. What did she mean? Taken? For what purpose? I could see the tremors in her hands as she clutched the watch tighter. Suddenly, I was gripped by a sense of foreboding. The city buzzed around us, yet we stood in our own world, encased in a cocoon of shared sorrow. I wanted to comfort her, to say something meaningful, but how could I when mystery clouded the air? I struggled to form a coherent thought. Then she leaned closer, whispering, "Do you believe in the power of a watch? Time, memories, they're all connected. If you truly want to know what happened." She paused, her eyes locked onto mine with an intensity that felt almost otherworldly. "You must look deeper." Before I could respond, she turned abruptly and walked away, leaving me alone with an ocean of questions. The weight of the watch lingered in my hands. What did she mean by saying I must look deeper? What truths lay hidden in the stories of seconds, minutes, years? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The darkness wrapped around me like a shroud as I wandered the streets, lost in my thoughts. The conversation with the woman replayed in my mind, echoing the grief in her voice. He didn't just die, he was taken. What kind of life did she lead before this loss? What depths of despair did she wade in daily? My heart ached for her, but even more unsettling was the echo of her chilling words in my own life. As the lights flickered to life around me, illuminating the dark corners of the city, I felt an unshakable desire to understand the truth of the watch, the story it contained, and the fate of her son. The cold metal still felt warm against my skin, as if it pulsed with a life of its own. Unease washed over me. Was I meant to take this momentary connection and transform it into action? I needed to find answers. The next day, I returned to the place where I had first met her. The streets buzzed with life, yet I felt an unyielding heaviness hovering over me. I imagined her face, the sharp crease of sorrow etched across her brow. Would she come back? What if she had already slipped away, perhaps haunted by memories of her lost son? I made my way to a nearby café, hoping the familiarity of steaming coffee and warm pastries would ground me, but doubt gnawed at my insides. I took a seat by the window, glancing out expectantly. Time ticked by, each minute stretching as I waited, and then like a beacon of hope the woman appeared in the distance. I felt my heart skip as she moved purposefully, a tinge of sorrow still shadowing her steps. Mustering my courage, I rushed outside. "Excuse me," I called, breathless. She turned, her gaze as penetrating as before. "I didn't know if you'd come back. I wanted to ask you." My throat constricted, words lodged awkwardly. "What did you mean by looking deeper?" Her eyes softened momentarily, but they were clouded with a sadness that struck deep. "It's about letting go, but also holding on," she uttered, her voice trembling. "The watch is more than you think. It's a key to a story. You must decipher the truth behind it." "How do I do that?" I asked, desperate for any path forward. To find him, follow the memories. Think about when you found the watch. What were you doing? Where was it? Retrace your steps. Sometimes, the past speaks to those willing to listen. Just as her words settled in, a harsh laugh erupted from a group of teenagers nearby, shattering the moment. I watched as they threw glances our way, eyes wide and mocking. I could feel the blood rush to my cheeks, embarrassment washing over me. The woman noticed and her expression shifted, a flicker of understanding gleaming in her eyes before she stepped closer. Be brave. Not everyone understands pain, she whispered, lingering for only a heartbeat before melting back into the sea of people. I stood there, internal turmoil swirling like a tempest. I could either turn away, returning to the comfort of my everyday life, or I could plunge into the unknown, pursue the whispers within the watch, and face whatever awaited me on the other side. Cloaked in uncertainty, I decided to follow the trail I had initially tread. I retraced my steps, thinking back to the moment I found the watch. The street, the honking cars, the people bustling with their lives. It was all a blur, until one image crystallized: the mural on the brick wall behind the sidewalk, a massive depiction of intertwined clocks with watch hands spinning wildly. With renewed determination, I made my way to the mural. I'd always appreciated street art, but now it felt riddled with meaning. I studied it, looking for some hint of connection. As I traced the outline of a clock, something unexpected caught my attention, a small emblem near the edge, hardly noticeable. It looked like a family crest, engraved in a delicate spiral pattern. My breath hitched. Was this the clue? Suddenly, a memory whispered in my ear: the blue-eyed woman had mentioned a family. What if her son was connected here, to this very mural? Just as I was pinpointing my thoughts, a hand shot out from nowhere, wrapping tightly around my wrist. Panic surged through me as I looked up to meet the harsh gaze of a man barely older than myself. "What do you think you're doing, staring at that?" His voice edged dangerously, an unmistakable threat looming around us. I swallowed, heart racing. I was just what? Looking for trouble. He leaned closer, intensity radiating from him. My instincts screamed at me to pull away, but something held me in place. Fear mingled with a strange sense of fate. In that very moment, as the danger escalated, I saw the woman's blue eyes flash before me, urging me to uncover the truths buried beneath the weight of time. Would I fold under pressure, or rise to the challenge? Before I could respond, he pulled me closer. "Don't think I didn't see you with her. You're out of your depth, kid." Just like that, as swiftly as he appeared, he pushed me away, leaving a gust of uncertainty swirling in his wake. The encounter left me shaken, yet one thought rang clear in my mind: I had ventured too far to turn back now. I had to delve deeper. Finding the watch was just the beginning. What lay ahead was about to test every fiber of my being, and I was startlingly aware that the path to those answers would come with more dangers than I could foresee. The atmosphere felt dense as I stood in the shadow of the mural, heart pounding, replaying the confrontation over and over. Had I truly bitten off more than I could chew? The man's fiery gaze still lingered, a reminder of the unpredictable dangers that sweated beneath the city's surface. I could retrace my steps back to the cafe with its warm, predictable ambience. But something deep inside wouldn't allow me to run. I couldn't forget the woman's face, the sorrow in her voice, or the weight of the watch that thrummed against my palm. With a cautious inhale, I turned my focus back to the mural, its colors vibrant yet menacing, as if challenging anyone willing to decipher its secrets. I traced the crest with my fingertips, my mind racing. If this symbol was a thread, it might lead me to something infinitely more significant, a lifeline amidst the chaos. With determination, I pulled out my phone, searching for anything I could find about the icon. The search yielded images of family crests, genealogies, and histories of local families. However, there was one family name that kept emerging, the Ramirez family. Coincidence? The woman had mentioned her son. Perhaps their story was intertwined with a history I didn't yet understand. Before I could get lost in the aesthetic of it all, a small coffee shop nearby caught my attention, a hideaway I had passed countless times yet had never entered. It was quaint, half covered by vines, and it felt like an invitation rather than a mundane stop. Maybe there I would find more clues, perhaps someone would know about the mural or the emblem. The bell above the door jingled as I stepped in, and the rich aroma of brewed coffee wrapped around me in a warm embrace. Soft music drifted through the air, soothing the lingering anxiety that clung to me. I took a seat at the counter and introduced myself to the barista, a kindly older woman with flecked gray hair. I might sound a bit odd, I began, waving a hand dismissively over the scattered papers I had spread out before me. But do you know anything about the Ramirez family? I'm searching for something connected to a mural down the street. Her eyes twinkled with recognition. Ah yes, the Ramirezes. Tragic story. They lost their boy a few years back. An accident, they said. Not an accident in the way you think. They believed something more sinister was at play. My heart quickened, gears shifting as I processed the information. What do you mean? Rumors of foul play flickered through the neighborhood like wildfire. People whispered about the darkness looming around their family. Hadn't you heard? The boy's death was surrounded by mystery. She paused, looking at me thoughtfully. Are you sure you want to dive into these murky waters? I nodded, my resolve hardening. I have to know. Please, can you tell me anything else? She leaned in, her voice dropping to a hushed whisper. They used to hold gatherings at their house, potlucks that became more like vigils after the tragedy. I think they must have significant items related to the boy's story, things tied to the mural. A flicker of excitement pierced through the trepidation brewing within me. Where do I find them? Do they still hold gatherings? Sometimes. But they've retreated from their social circle. If you really want to reach them, you'll have to go to the house itself on the outskirts of town. It's a trail filled with thorns, but if you knock long enough, they might answer. I felt a fresh surge of purpose. I needed to approach their home, to uncover more about that boy, the torment behind the mystery, and the truths veiled by shadows. With gratitude, I thanked the barista and left, heart racing as adrenaline coursed through me. This was an opportunity to dig deeper, but I braced for the fear that always accompanied such ventures. As I walked the winding streets under the fading sun, I couldn't shake the nagging feeling that I wasn't alone. Shadowy figures flitted through my periphery, often disappearing as I turned. Anxiety built with every step, the same sense of danger from the confrontation earlier weighed heavy in my chest. Driven by urgency, I pressed onward, the winding path leading me through a quiet residential area with homes and trees cloaked in dimming light. Each creak of branches above sounded like whispered warnings. Was someone trailing me, watching my every move? Finally, I arrived at the address. The Ramirez house loomed ahead, draped in a heavy silence. It appeared neglected, weeds choking the garden, a disparity to the bright community I had just come from. The air felt thick, and my heart thrummed wildly, signaling that I was nearing a precipice of discovery. With hesitant fingers, I knocked on the door, each thud resonating against the wood like a heartbeat echoing in the stillness. Would they open up? Would they even remember the boy? I was about to find out. Just as the door creaked inward, a flicker of movement caught my attention in the corner of my eye. I turned, only to see a familiar figure slipping away into the darkness, a fleeting glance of the same man who had threatened me earlier. My pulse surged with panic. Why was he here? Wait! I called, but it was too late. The figure had vanished into the empty street, leaving an unsettling feeling behind. I turned back to the door, finding myself staring into piercing eyes that reflected equally deep sorrows. The moment had arrived. Whether my answers lay behind this door or in the shadows left behind, either way, they were within reach, yet uncertainty cloaked every decision that led me here. The door opened fully, revealing a weary woman with eyes clouded by grief. She recognized me instantly, although the sorrow etched on her face drowned out the warmth of any welcome. "You're here for the mural, aren't you?" Her voice trembled, as if speaking the words brought the memories back to life again. "Point 2 heard about your son," I stammered, grappling with the weight of the tragedy that echoed in her home. "I want to help. I need to understand what happened." She hesitated, her hand clutching the doorframe as though it were a lifeline. "No one really knows what happened," she whispered, the shards of pain palpable in her tone. "They've tried to forget, and so have we." I took a step forward, sensing the shift in space, a world of stories held within these walls. "But maybe you don't have to forget. Perhaps discussing it might help." "I won't be the one to bring up the boy's name," I promised myself. "Not yet." The burden felt too heavy. Her response came in silence, eyes glistening as she glanced back into the dimness of the house. "I can't right now," she finally said, the air thick with unsaid words. "Not with what's happening." "What is happening?" My instinct pulled me in closer. What could grip a home harder than grief? Before she could answer, another voice emerged, a young boy, no older than 8, with bright eyes shadowed by uncertainty. "Mom, who's at the door?" He gazed up at me, curiosity mingling with the growing weight of a lingering sadness. "This is," she faltered, searching for my name but only finding hesitation. An outsider, that I felt a pang of hurt at her words, but in the pit of my stomach, I sensed the stirring of hope within the boy's innocent gaze. "I'm just looking for answers," I whispered, unsure of whether it was directed at her or at the child. The boy stepped closer, the innocence in his eyes piercing through the grief surrounding his mother. "Please, can you help us?" His question struck me deeply, igniting a flicker of kindness that seemed rare in this fragile moment. Before I could respond, the atmosphere shifted again. The air grew stale, the world outside muffled as if grappling with secrets yet to unfold. The boy, momentarily filled with courage, pulled a small piece of paper from his pocket. "I found this in my brother's things." That he handed it to me, his small hands trembling slightly, hope and anxiety dancing precariously on the edge of his features. I glanced down to see an intricate drawing of the mural, complete with symbols I had yet to decipher, swirling enigmas that beckoned answers. My heart raced. "What is this?" I asked, my voice almost shaking as I ventured a glance toward the mother, whose expression betrayed a mixture of confusion and panic. "It's just a drawing," she murmured, as if trying to dismiss its significance. He had many imaginations. But the boy shook his head vehemently. "No, Mom. It's important. We can ask the lady. She can talk to the mural." My mind reeled at the implications of what he had said. Could there be more to the boy's imagination? Did he witness something, connections beyond the surface that even darkness couldn't quell? Seeing the flicker of defiance in the boy's eyes, the mother finally relented, making a small step aside. "Come in, then." Just for a moment as I entered the dimly lit space, the warmth inside contrasted sharply with the chill that clawed my spine. The cramped room was filled with remnants of happier times, toys stacked in corners, photographs hanging from walls, each a slice of a life lost, each a testament to love mingled with grief. The boy ushered me toward a pile of toys, reaching for a box nestled beneath the pile. I found this too, he said, excitement bubbling beneath every word. With trembling hands, he revealed a small, tarnished brass watch, its faint chime echoing softly as he held it up for me to inspect. My breath caught as recognition washed over me. It was the very same watch that had thrummed against my palm earlier, connecting me back to the uncertainty, the threads of fate that weaved this moment together. The boy's fingers played across the watch's engraved surface, hesitant yet. "Reverend, where did you get this?" I whispered, both fascinated and terrified by the sudden rush of connection. "I found it in the garden, next to where we used to play hide and seek. It belonged to my brother." Each word struck like a discordant note, unraveling some invisible barrier within me. "What was your brother's name?" My voice trembled, knowing the weight of destiny that seemed to lie ahead, but before he could answer, that same dark figure emerged again. The man from earlier, the one who had threatened me, stood ominously outside the window, his silhouette framed against the darkening sky. His penetrating gaze pierced through the glass, and the fear in my heart blended with urgency. "Get away from the window," crumbled from the mother's lips, transforming her earlier resolve into instinctive protection for her son. As the boy squeezed my hand tightly, I caught my breath, feeling the pulse of danger reverberating in the very air we breathed. Did this man know about the boy? Did he know about the watch? As I turned to face the street once more, a revelation struck me like lightning. The very reason I had come to return this lost watch might be interwoven with the threat looming outside. Hope flickered against despair, and I could feel the swell of fear caving into the unknown as I faced the mother and her son. The chasm that once separated our paths was narrowing, yet darker clouds loomed heavily overhead, threatening to drown out every glimmer of understanding we might grasp. "Who is that man?" I whispered, my grip tightening around the boy's small hand as the world spiraled toward a moment that might never return. The boy's hand felt fragile within mine, a simple connection that spoke volumes. The mother's eyes flickered with fear as she instinctively stepped in front of her son, shielding him as though she too was trying to guard whatever hope remained for them both. I could see the desperation etched on her face, the way her lips pressed tightly together as the dark figure outside seemed to linger in the shadows like a looming storm. "That I don't know who he is," she murmured, her voice strained. "But he's been watching us." Since her words hung in the air, thick with the weight of a past she dreaded to relive. "Please, Mom," the boy pleaded, his voice quivering. "We can talk to her about Jacob. Maybe she can help us understand." I directed my gaze back toward the window, where the man stood unmoving, the evening light reflecting off his expressionless face. The air felt charged, a palpable tension weaving through the walls of this once happy home. Was he connected to Jacob's disappearance? The questions crowded my mind, and I could feel a knot tightening in my stomach. "That I am not leaving you, I promise," I whispered to the boy, squeezing his hand tighter while keeping my eyes fixed on the window. "But we may need to talk quickly. Can you tell me more about your brother? Anything at all, even the smallest detail might help." The boy nodded, his expression determined yet scared. "Jacob loved to climb trees. He used to pretend the biggest one in the park was a pirate ship, and he was the captain. He would shout where we were going, and I would play along. He always said we had to be brave." A wave of sorrow washed over me as the memory of laughter and innocence echoed all too clearly in the boy's words. I could almost see the two of them scaling imaginary masts, their voices singing against the wind instead of submerged in the echoes of grief. "Mom." The boy turned his face upward, desperation etched into every feature. "You need to tell her what you saw. We can't keep it inside anymore. She can help us find Jacob." Tears glistened in her eyes, and for a moment, I felt the world around us slip away. I sensed the edges of a revelation about to unfold, something that could bridge the chasm of silence that had engulfed them for so long. "Honey," she faltered, the words barricaded behind a tidal wave of anguish. "I can't. You can. If she is here, it's for a reason." The boy's passionate insistence ignited a small ember of courage. "Please," I added softly, my voice barely a whisper. "I came here to help. But I can't do that unless I understand what happened. Please tell me." The mother's resolve cracked as her breath caught, her hand rising to cover her mouth as if to cradle the secrets held within. He went into the woods the last time he was gone for hours. When he came home, he was different. I thought it was just fatigue, but one day he came back with stories of places no one knew existed. He said he met someone who told him about hidden treasures and then something bad. Bad? The word slipped out like a cold shadow, exaggerating the fear curling in my chest. Yes. Her voice rose, a cacophony of grief unleashed. He wouldn't elaborate, just kept talking about being brave and how we needed to prepare to leave. I didn't know what he meant. Then one day, he just disappeared. No signs, no messages, nothing. We thought he was playing a game, but the man, he kept looking at our house. I've seen him loitering in the distance every day since Jacob vanished. The words dripped like dark paint onto my soul. Each sentence peeled back layers of the mystery that had brought me to their doorstep, revealing fragments that intertwined grief with an unsettling truth. You think he may be connected to Jacob's disappearance? Tears rolled down her cheeks while the boy squeezed my hand, as if tethering us together against the oppressive weight of the fear woven through this home. I couldn't believe it at first, but I started to watch him too. He appears out of nowhere, he knows things about us. Things that make me feel exposed. The boy's voice trembled as he added, he was at the park the day I found the watch. My heart raced at the sudden clarity. The realization that the man might hold the key to unraveling the mystery felt as heavy as it did daunting. Could he have something to do with the mural too? A thread connecting Jacob's fate to mine? Could this all be more than mere coincidence? Mom, we need to go outside, the boy urged, his eyes wide with a determination that belied his young age. We can face him together. We can discover the truth. Are you out of your mind? She snapped back, the fear in her eyes quickly morphing to protective fury. I will not risk you, not for anyone, but the boy shook his head, his earlier courage rising once more. What if he knows where Jacob went? We can't just hide in here. Time halted, the weight of the moment pressing down on us all. As viewers caught in a frame of a haunting portrait, I realized just how fragile their world was and how tethered to the echoes of grief they'd become. Let's find out together, I said quietly, truth surging every edge of my resolve. But if we're going to face him, we need to do it wisely. And just then, the dark figure outside shifted, his presence ominous, drawing nearer. My breath caught in my throat as the weight of inevitability washed over us. Ready? I asked, my voice both steady and uncertain, but with that final question, an unexpected force pulled at my heart. A premonition of dread mingled with the flickering hope that flickered within our small circle of light. Suddenly, there was a loud crash from the back door, loud enough to shake the very foundation of our haunted home. A momentary flash of uncertainty shot through my veins as I turned toward the sound, bracing for whatever force awaited us. In the silence that followed, a whisper barely echoed through the room, chilling my bones. Where is he? I dared to speak through the fear, wanting nothing more than the answer, yet knowing that this new turn could take us to the heart of our unraveling tale. The air grew thick with tension, wrapping around us like a suffocating fog. All eyes turned toward the doorway, where the sound of splintering wood still resounded in my ears. The mother gasped, her fear palpable as the boy pressed closer to me, seeking solace in my presence. I wanted to offer them reassurance, to tell them everything would be all right, but deep down, I knew that whatever confronted us at that threshold could tear our fragile alliance apart. Stay behind me, I whispered, my body instinctively shifting to shield them from whatever chaos was about to unfold. Every beat of my heart felt echoed in the walls, reverberating with the unaccounted-for secrets of the house. As the dust settled, a dark silhouette emerged, steps heavy and deliberate against the scattered remnants of our lives. My breath caught, and a primal instinct urged me to retreat, but I stood my ground. Who are you? I called out, my voice firmer than I felt. The figure stepped into the light, revealing sharp features shadowed by a hood. His eyes glinted, cold and calculating, sending a chill racing down my spine. That I am looking for something, he responded, a voice low and smooth, dripping with an unnerving calm. And you have it. What do you mean? The mother's voice cracked, panic tightening the edges of her words. What could you possibly want from us? The figure studied her, his gaze piercing through her facade of courage, and for a fleeting moment, I saw something in his expression, a fleeting hint of recognition, or perhaps something more sinister. Jacob has something of mine, he replied, his tone now tinged with an undercurrent of menace. And I aim to retrieve it. You can either help, or you can watch as things go very wrong. The boy tensed beside me, his small hand gripping mine tightly. Jacob, he's my brother. You'll never get him. Your brother is lost because of secrets you don't understand, the figure spat. The world is far larger and far darker than you choose to see. Jacob began to learn those depths, but he was never meant to return. You should consider that you might be better off letting him go. The words fell into the space between us like a lead weight. I felt the boy flinch beside me, a mix of fear and anger flashing across his face. It echoed the unvoiced pain that existed in both the mother's and the child's hearts. I couldn't bring myself to retreat. Instead, my resolve ignited. You don't know us. I shouted, each word infused with a mix of fear and determination. You don't get to decide what happens to Jacob. We will find him. Together. A sinister smile crept across the man's face, promising troubles yet to unfold. And what if I told you your quest for Jacob might lead you to people far more dangerous than I? You are unprepared for what lies ahead. I could feel the mother's trembling breath beside me, and the boy squeezed my hand again, finding strength in our united front. We don't care. He shouted, his brave spirit shining through the hour of darkness. You can't scare us away from finding him. My heart swelled with pride for the boy's bravery, but a shadow of doubt still loomed over us. The figure began to move, stepping cautiously away from the doorway, a menacing dance of temptation. If you seek the truth, you must be ready for the cost. What does that mean? I questioned, my voice steady even as the uncertainty of the moment wrapped around us like tendrils of smoke. The truth you seek is a labyrinth, and with every twist and turn there comes a sacrifice. He gestured behind him, and I caught a glimpse of something glinting ominously in the distancia. Watch Jacob's watch. Did I have something of yours too? I replied, my own defiance rising, as I thought of the weight of the watch in my pocket. It's connected to this mystery. The figure paused, the air thick with anticipation. Then let's make a deal, he replied slowly, his eyes narrowing like a predator honing in on its prey. Return what you have, and I will tell you what you want to know. But as I reached for the watch, a sense of foreboding washed over me. This moment felt like the precipice of a decision that could alter the very course of our lives. Was I ready to forsake the last tangible link to Jacob for what this figure might reveal? If I gave up the watch, would I be bargaining away more than just a trinket? Could I not only lose a piece of the puzzle but potentially pave the way for dangers I had yet to comprehend? In that moment, the weight of uncertainty exploded into a torrent of emotion, racing to a tipping point. Before I could respond, an unquenched longing sparked in the boy's eyes. Don't listen to him. We can do this together, you don't have to give him anything. And just as I pulled my hand away from my pocket, intent on denying the figure's demand, the room was swallowed by a sudden darkness, plunging us into shadows that danced like whispers of despair. The walls felt as if they were closing in, echoing the cries of the unseen and the uncertainty that now permeated our quest. That I have no patience for games, the figure warned, voice dropping an octave as he stepped further toward us, and I felt my heart plummet. Just as fear threatened to overpower reason, a flash from the corner of my vision caught my eye, and in that second, realization struck. The boy wasn't just holding my hand in urgency, I was holding on to the last remaining thread of hope for his brother. Before I could think, I shouted, well, take the leap. You may have history on your side, but we have heart. And as I declared our united front against the looming darkness, a cacophony erupted. The air crackled like thunder, followed by a blinding light illuminating the room as old truths clawed their way toward the surface, revealing paths entwined in ways we could never have imagined. Where is he? It rang louder than before, echoing over the whispers of the past, now a question directing the unrelenting pull toward our fates. Little did I know, that moment would uncover more about the figure before us than I could ever fathom, a revelation we were yet unready for. The bright light faded just as suddenly as it had appeared, leaving us blinking in a thick darkness that felt almost alive, wrapping itself around us like an anxious embrace. I could hear the mother's shallow breaths. Fear had a color, and it painted her tone in a muted palette of hopelessness. The boy's grip on my hand remained sturdy, a lifeline in the throes of dismay. "What just happened?" I whispered, feeling the swell of uncertainty swell in my chest, a tide of dread that seemed to push against my resolve. I don't know," the boy said, his voice trembling, yet something more than mere fear shone through the unmistakable glimmer of hope battling against despair. "Maybe it's a sign. Maybe Jacob knows we're coming for him." The figure remained silent, an ominous shadow that loomed close enough to feel his presence, yet far enough to keep his intentions veiled. I could feel the weight of his eyes boring into us, searching for a crack in our united front. "What else do you want from us?" The mother's voice quaked with indignation, matching the rising intensity in the room. "You can't just come here, threaten us, and expect us to submit. Submission is not what I ask for," he replied coolly, stepping forward to break through the tenuous veil of darkness. "What I seek is understanding. The truth, much like light, is best seen in shades of gray." I felt the boy shift beside me, a glimmer of defiance sparking in his eyes. "No one is going to understand you. You're just a ruthless stranger trying to exploit our pain." His voice was louder now, shaking and yet unwavering. The figure paused, surprise flitting across his angular features. "Pain often reveals strength in unexpected places, boy. But know this, the path to discovering Jacob will not be simple. If I were you, I would be prepared for the sacrifices that lie ahead." Suddenly, the remnants of anxiety within my chest twisted into something else, something I couldn't quite name. "What sacrifices?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "Every truth comes at a cost," he replied cryptically. "And the more desperate you are to uncover it, the greater the price." His gaze flicked between the mother and child, and a trace of something akin to sympathy flashed across his features. "But I can help you if you are willing to put aside your preconceptions." The aura in the room shifted as his voice softened, and though my instincts screamed to distrust him, an ember of curiosity ignited in me. "How?" "By seeing the past, learning what some would prefer to remain buried." The figure gestured behind him into the shadows where the light had receded. My heart raced. Was he saying we could somehow delve into our memories or those of Jacob? "What do you mean?" The mother pressed, glancing nervously at me. "Take hold of the truth and brace for the consequences," the figure continued, unperturbed. "Only then can you navigate the labyrinth without losing your way." "What if we refuse?" I interjected, my defiance rising once more. "What happens then?" "Then you will remain shackled to the unknown, and Jacob may slip further from your grasp, lost to the darkness you are too frightened to confront." The boy's grip tightened on my hand as if he could sense my hesitation. "We can't lose him. We have to try." The words hung between us like a delicate thread, frail yet vibrant with potential. Beneath the shifting shadows and the looming presence of uncertainty, there existed a spark, however faint, that dared to believe in possibility, in hope. I could feel the tension threading through our trio, binding us in a pact deeper than any mere words could convey. "I'm willing to try," I finally said. "If there's any chance to find Jacob, to bring him back to you." I looked at the boy, his eyes alight with an unyielding spirit. "Then it's settled," the figure said, an eerie satisfaction weaving through his voice. "But heed my warning, the journey is fraught with temptations that could turn you against each other. Trust will be your greatest weapon and your greatest vulnerability." As he spoke, a shudder coursed through the walls surrounding us, a tremor that rattled my very core. But I found strength in the boy beside me, in the mother's fierce resolve to protect her child. We were not here just to seek a lost sibling, we were here to unearth the buried weight of our intertwined destinies. "What do we do now?" I asked, the darkness still wrapping around us, yet the hint of a path ahead began to reveal itself faintly, a sliver slicing through the shadows. "Follow me," the figure commanded, and he stepped into the deepening void, beckoning us with an outstretched arm. A flicker of fear danced in my chest, but there was something else, a restless urge to confront the truths demanding to be unearthed. with a tentative step, I followed him, clinging to the boy's hand as we forged deeper into the shrouded unknown. The air hummed with tension, electric and raw. As we moved further away from the world we had known, the fabric of possibility stretched thin, almost breaking. Suddenly, the ground beneath us rippled not in fear, but as if something were awakening from a deep slumber. The walls began to pulse with a heartbeat, thrumming through the air. Just as I dared to question what lay ahead, a scream pierced through the darkness, a sound that was too familiar, too close, sending a chill down my spine. It wasn't just the echo of despair but the unwavering voice of a boy crying for help. Jacob. His name escaped my lips in a rush, reverberating through the space as the world around us seemed to crumble under the weight of our fear and hope intertwined. There it was again, clear and haunting. The darkness swirled violently, a tempest of memories and shadows dancing before our eyes, awaiting our next move. The signal was unmistakable, we were running out of time. And as the screams faded into silence, I realized with dawning horror that finding Jacob would require us to confront not just the shadows outside, but the shadows within, wounds we had long hidden from view, truths that threatened to pull us apart before we even had a chance to reunite. "Where are you?" I murmured, hoping against hope that my voice would reach him, but the silence that answered was deafening, echoing my deepest fears. The tension in the air thickened, and with each step, we risked everything, our bonds, our very identities, in pursuit of a truth that may shatter us entirely. As we moved deeper into the darkness, anxiety hummed in the air, laden with an unarticulated dread. The boy's hand slipped into mine, warm and reassuring, a tether to sanity amidst the chaos. The figure ahead of us led with an eerie certainty, and I couldn't shake the feeling that every demanding turn would peel back another layer of our souls, exposing secrets we weren't prepared to confront. "Why are we doing this?" the boy asked, his voice barely breaking above a whisper, though the tremor betrayed his unsteady heart. I could sense his resolve wavering, oscillating between determination and the fear of what awaited us. "Because we have to," I said, determined to instill strength with my words even as my own confidence faltered. The figure moved like a phantom, weaving seamlessly through the darkness, an almost mesmerizing specter. I couldn't help but feel he held the key to unlocking Jacob's fate. Or perhaps, forging our own demise. What sacrifices? The mother's question lingered, heavy with a weight that threatened to crush us. Though fear gnawed at our hearts, an uneasy alliance formed amongst us, woven not just from shared goals but from an ever-present uneasiness about the man guiding our steps. "Remember," he advised, turning slightly to eye us over his shoulder. "Each veiled truth brings with it unexpected burdens." With each word, I felt the chill of unknowing seep further into my bones. "Mom, to believe in this." "I feel Jacob somewhere close," the boy said, scrambling to find the voice of conviction within himself. "We can't lose that." I marveled at his spirit, my own heart ignited with fierce protectiveness. Between the mother's clenched jaw and the boy's fiery gaze, my doubts were momentarily subdued. This was a journey of love, a desperate bid not just for Jacob, but for each other. "Then let us face what comes," the mother finally declared, a steely determination glinting in her eyes as she mirrored the child's fervor. "If we are to find him, we do it together, together." The word resonated like an echo in the chamber of my mind, a promise that we would endure whatever lay in our path. I tightened my grip on the boy's hand, grounding myself in that singular bond. As we advanced, the shadows thickened, swirling in a way that felt almost sentient. This felt like more than just fear, it felt like a living entity testing our resolve, taunting us with veiled threats. My heart raced with each echoing heartbeat within the walls, and it felt as if we were intruding upon an ancient ritual, one that held the power to reshape our very lives. And then, an unexpected flicker, a soft glow began to break through the relentless darkness ahead. It was dim, almost ethereal, like the warm embers of a dying fire, beckoning us forward. Hope surged within me, drowning out the din of uncertainty. "What is that?" I breathed, both awed and terrified, as anticipation flared. "That, my friends, is the gateway to your understanding," the figure said, his voice draped in a veil of intrigue. "But be wary, not all truths are what they seem." Suddenly, the glow intensified, morphing into a spectrum of colors swirling in intricate patterns before us. Caught in its mesmerizing dance, I felt an overwhelming pull towards it, as if it were threading the fabric of my very essence. The boy and I exchanged a breathless glance, an unspoken agreement cementing between us. "Do we step through?" he asked, eyes wide with a mixture of trepidation and wonder. "We must. There's no turning back now," I replied resolutely, glancing at the mother, who nodded in silent agreement, her face set with determination. As we took a collective step into the radiant light, a surge of energy coursed through us, tingling like electricity in the air. The colors enveloped us, and those mundane shadows behind us disappeared entirely, giving way to an explosion of sensation. For a fleeting moment, I glimpsed memories, images and whispers that rushed past me like autumn leaves caught in a whirlwind. I saw fleeting moments of joy and heartbreak, families laughing, tears cascading down faces, the innocence of childhood intermingling with the piercing sharpness of grief. Then came a violent shift, and a shattering vision broke through, revealing a memory that wasn't mine but felt hauntingly familiar. It was Jacob, his laughter ringing out like music, juxtaposed against a backdrop of chaos. I could feel his heartache, palpable and raw, drowning in fear while desperately reaching for something that wasn't there, something just out of reach. "Jacob!" I cried out, the urgency in my voice lost in the cacophony of memories flooding through my mind. And then everything stopped at once. Darkness clung to the edges as the vibrant colors faded into a foreboding shadow, one that felt as tangible as the fear bubbling inside me. "Can you see him?" the boy whispered urgently, our eyes wide as we searched the remnants of the fading light. No. The mother's voice trembled with rising dread, and I could see the flicker of panic glimmering in her eyes. "We can't lose him again." The floor beneath us began to tremble, pulsating like a heartbeat. An ominous warning resonated through our bodies, as if the memories were retreating back behind a veil. The figure, a mere shadow in the increasing tumult, stood resolute, framed by the waning light. "Remember, sacrifices must be made," he intoned, the darkness creeping close around us, weaving through the air like fingers coiling around our throats. And then, with a final scream that shattered the night, the light extinguished, leaving us engulfed in the frightening depths of darkness once more. A silence falling heavy around us, broken only by the racing depths of our own anxieties. "Jacob!" The echoes of my heartache filled the expanse, reverberating as I clutched the boy's hand, the unwavering connection illuminated through despair. But with every heartbeat, I knew, our journey was just beginning, and what lay ahead was a maze of buried truths that would test our very souls. As I stood there in the murky shadows, the absence of light felt like an insatiable void, threatening to consume us entirely. Panic rose and fell within me, choking my thoughts until I could hardly breathe. The echoes of my own call for Jacob bounced mercilessly against the walls, reminding me of how desperately we sought the one person who had slipped from our grasp. "Mom, what do we do now?" The boy's question hung in the air, heavy with desperation and uncertainty. His grip on my hand was firm, yet I sensed the tremor in his fingers, a silent plea for guidance that weighed far more than the darkness surrounding us. I hesitated, my mind racing to formulate a response that could soothe our collective fear. "We need to stick together." The words fell flat, as if they had no power against the growing dread clawing at my insides. "Together," the mother echoed fervently, her voice breaking. It was a sound that punctured the silence with raw emotion, and in it, I found a glimmer of strength despite my own wavering courage. "No matter what happens, we face this together." But as the trembling ground beneath us pulsed like a heart in distress, I couldn't shake the gnawing suspicion that our togetherness was a fragile thread, teetering on the brink of unraveling. The figure, who lingered at the edges of this intricate web of dread and hope, turned his gaze toward us. "The journey ahead will reveal your deepest fears," he whispered, each word laced with an enigma that felt like a riddle wrapped in a warning. "And you may face the cost of your desires." "What do you mean?" The boy pressed, urgency blaring in his voice as he sought clarity amid the confusion. "Everything you want has its price," the figure replied cryptically, the shadows enveloping him with a slither of malice. "Consider what you are willing to sacrifice to uncover the truth." With that, the ground shook once more, forcing us to adjust our stance, and a crack of light burst open beneath our feet. It was fleeting but bright enough to cast anxious glances our way. The rawness of that light felt like a promise, but it tinged my thoughts with fear of what we'd have to sacrifice to find our way through. Should we go? The boy asked, voice trembling in anticipation. What if we lose Jacob again? We won't lose him, I insisted, but the lies tasted bitter on my tongue as doubt gnawed at my resolve. What if this journey only led to more despair? But there was no time for doubt, for just then as headlights of an approaching train burst through the horizon the crack widened, and an almost hypnotic glow began to cascade through. A melody, soft and haunting, drifted from within the light, laced with memories both mine and not mine, resonating with nostalgia. Listen, I urged the others, closing my eyes to embrace the melody. It tugged at something deep within, a familiar warmth that flickered as if reaching out for usual of us. As the sound wrapped around us like a cherished embrace, the painful memory of Jacob bubbled to the surface, filling the cavernous void of despair. I remembered his laughter cascading like rain, his joyous spirit warming the lives of everyone around him. We need to find Jacob, I shouted, propelled by the urgency of our task and the echo of those memories. The boy's eyes bloomed with hope, igniting a flicker of light that fought fiercely against the shadows. With blind faith, fueled by love and longing, he steered us forward towards the opening light. The mother, despite her fear, was swept up in the current of our mission, bolstered by a resolve that surged ever stronger with each wintry gust that whipped through the air. But just as we approached the threshold, the walls began to quake violently, heavy with threat as the darkness surged back like a tidal wave. I glanced back at the figure, who now appeared less a guide and more a harbinger of chaos, his laughter resonating like the storm around us. What are you playing at? I shouted into the tempest, feeling insignificant in the clamor of the losing battle ahead. The shifting shadows danced gleefully, reveling in our struggle. The cost will always come, he taunted, a smile curling on his lips like a snake. Decide what you're willing to pay, Mom, we can't. The boy cried, horror painting his features as he clutched his mother's arm. But before I could process the terror of that revelation, the ground split wide open, a chasm threatening to pull us apart. Right as the darkness threatened to swallow us, a flash of bright light erupted from within, swirling upwards and forcing everything back for a mere moment. Run! I shouted above the chaos, racing toward the glowing fissure that beckoned us. I sensed a surge of urgency, spurred by the weight of unsaid goodbyes and the haunting essence of Jacob somewhere close. As we pushed through, I felt a hand grasp mine, and I turned to find the boy staring at me, his face pale yet resolute. I won't leave you, he declared, and I felt a fire ignite within me not just for Jacob, but for this boy, this connection that had become a lifeline amid uncertainty. And then, without warning, the tremors ceased, silence choking the air as we found ourselves enveloped in a blinding light, one that felt both achingly familiar and unnervingly strange. When the haze finally faded, we stood in a clearing bathed in an otherworldly glow, surrounded by trees that bore iridescent leaves dancing as if made of glass. But it was the vision that awaited us in the distance that stole my breath away. There, in the center of the clearing, a silhouette emerged, one that radiated warmth despite the air thick with confusion, a figure clad in shadows but unmistakably holding the essence of Jacob. But before I could call out, a sudden rush of wind swept through, splitting the air and forcing a revelation that sent chills down my spine. Mom, the boy whispered, fear lit in his eyes, what if that isn't Jacob? The realization crashed over me as the light faded just enough to obscure the truth, leaving us teetering on the edge of despair and hope, caught in the grip of an unimaginable twist. What we sought might not be who we thought at all, and the journey ahead promised not just challenges, but a reckoning that could fracture us all. The figure stood before us, cloaked in shadows yet shimmering with the enchantment of the forest around him. For a moment, time suspended itself, and uncertainty withdrew from the edges of my consciousness. Jacob! The thought raced through me, igniting every fiber of my being, yet my very heart stammered with the severity of the moment. Could this truly be him, or was it another illusion woven through the threads of our grief? Jacob! I shouted, despite the trembling in my voice, each utterance a pilgrimage toward the reality I yearned to reclaim. Is that really you? The silhouette shifted, head tilting slightly to the side. In that split second, the shadows parted just enough for a glimmer of familiar warmth to break through a soft laugh, a twinkling burst of joy that flitted above our turmoil. A flicker of relief mixed with dread washed over me. It sounded as if he were responding, yet still enshrouded in murky uncertainty. "Mom, look!" the boy exclaimed, his voice tickling the edges of disbelief. "It has to be him." There was a deep yearning in those words, echoing the hope that swarmed in my chest, but, before joy could bloom fully, the figure shook his head slowly. "No, child," he murmured, the voice a haunting melody laced with regret. "I am not what you wish me to be." A wave of despair crashed against my heart, each beat thudding with anguish as realization washed over us. This figure was cloaked not just in mystery, but in the fragments of our pain. The swirling shadows whirled tighter around him, exposing glimpses of laughter, warmth, and lives entwined, but also the unmistakable depth of loss. It was a reflection of our grief, of secrets marred in darkness. "Who are you?" I managed to choke out, swallowing the weight of betrayal clinging to my throat. "What do you want?" "I am a keeper of the past," he replied, his voice echoing like a lost whisper in the wind. "I am here to guide you through the labyrinth of heart and memory." "But no, every path comes with sacrifices." The shadows formed shapes around us, echoes of families gathering, children playing, and laughter cascading through the air, shimmering jewels against the stark irony of our reality. "What sacrifices?" The word slipped from my lips, a thread woven between hope and resignation. "To uncover the truth about Jacob," he stated, his gaze locking onto mine with an intensity that pierced through the haze. "You must confront your fears, unearth buried memories, and decide what you are willing to forfeit to reclaim what was lost." A solemn moment stretched between us, heavy like a promise, heavy like the weight of every unanswered question clawing at the fragile hope I harbored. I gazed back at the boy, his expression alight with still blooming hope, yet shadows danced in his eyes, a reflection of the battle raging within him. It mirrored my own turmoil, straddling the line between loyalty to his brother and the churning uncertainty of our outcome. "Is Jacob okay?" he whispered, the edges of his heart aching with worry. "Can we really find him?" "Your heart should guide you, young one. But remember," the figure leaned forward, depths of shadows swirling, "your journey may lead you to painful truths about him and yourself. If you're willing to face it, the essence of your shared bond will light the path forward." A deep breath filled the silence that threatened to engulf us. The weight of every unsaid word pooled within me, a swelling tide threatening to drown out my fear. I held the boy's hand tightly, finding strength in our shared bond, and stepped forward, my heart clamoring for the connection that had driven us to this moment. "Yes," I said, voice trembling but resolute, "whatever it takes to bring him back." The figures surrounding us shifted, shadows coalescing into something both tender and haunting, a tapestry of our intertwined fates. The air crackled with intensity as the keeper's visage transformed, reflecting the past and the present images of Jacob dancing across the tapestry. The laughter mingled with whispers of fear and sorrow, echoes that resonated through our duality, urging us onward. "All right," the boy said, resolve firming his stance. "I want to find Jacob. I choose to believe in him." As the words tumbled free, the keeper nodded, satisfaction rippling through his features. "Very well. Follow your hearts, yet tread carefully. The truth may cut deeper than the blade, and the cost is yours to bear." With that, the surrounding shadows warped and twisted, beckoning us toward a doorway formed from the very fabric of our hearts. The figures danced behind us, revealing glimpses of memories and filled spaces previously marked by voids. The path ahead glimmered, an invitation to uncover whatever lay ahead. I clutched the boy's hand tightly, and together, we stepped through the threshold, an arc formed of intertwined destinies and the promise of discovery. "Jacob," I called, each word surging through me like a tempest, both a prayer and a vow. But this time, the shadows stirred, and a presence unfurled from the depths, one that echoed back the searing love we held. The whispers crescendoed, a wave of voices calling us to navigate the treacherous bends of heartache and history until at last, we cradled our deepest loss until hope emerged as our guiding star. In that moment, an overwhelming warmth radiated through me, overwhelming shadows lifting just enough for uncertainty to crystallize into Clarissa returned to the unwavering bond that anchored our search for the truth. The light shimmered brighter as we delved deeper, rising through darkness cloaked in uncertainty toward the heart of our quest, buoyed by connection and an unyielding promise together, we would salvage the last fragments of love. And as the shadows faded behind us, I realized fully that my heart was forged by the journey and the struggles that had brought that very love to life, tethering us eternally through the maze of darkness that lay ahead. Together, I murmured softly, our voices mingling as we walked toward the embrace of the ever-brightening horizon. Together, echoed my steadfast resolve as the figure faded into the background. Jacob was somewhere out there, his truth amidst all our shadows, and we would not relent in our quest to bring him home, and just as we ventured forward, my soul felt light ere a heart stretched not just to endure, but to embrace what was designed to heal, whispering with every breath, we are forever connected. Love will always find a way. And in that unyielding belief, I discovered the power of a shared journey, the strength of bonds that withstand the deepest trials, and an unshakable truth: we are the architects of our fate, the guardians of love, and through darkness, light will always find its way home.